Hey everyone, welcome to the Rosehart show. We're a few minutes late here. Sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties getting set up and, having kids and, the whole work from home thing. I've got the kids at home and, it's chaos. And so a few minutes late and I apologize for that. But today I want to talk about how you can retire early in like 5 years. And it depends on your goals. It depends on, what kind of retirement lifestyle you want to have. It depends on, really that's the main determinant is what kind of life do you want to live and how frugal are you willing to be to achieve that goal. So what sort of standard of living you're looking for. And if I know that and I can quantify that, right? So I find out what that standard of living looks like, and then we can cost that out and say, this is what it's actually gonna cost from a housing perspective, from a food perspective, to live the life that I want, from a transportation perspective, etc. and so forth. So that's what it all is. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you guys on. Everyone can hear me loud and clear. It should be all good. Aiden, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. I'm gonna take your super chat money and I'm gonna buy a silver coin. Actually, $2.99 probably wouldn't even buy me a silver coin, but we're gonna talk about that today. We're gonna talk a little bit about COVID because, state of the market, state of the union, I like to talk about what's been up in my life. I'm still buying real estate right now in London, Ontario. There are lots of deals. I'm seeing 1% rule type deals. I'm seeing high cap rates. I'm seeing a lot of cash flow. And the best part is I'm seeing reduced competition. So for the first time in a long time, you can begin to negotiate back and forth on the deals that you're working on. This whole economic shutdown means there's more opportunity for us who are still working hard. And I want to share one thing before I get into how to retire early, and I'm just doing this for more of the new listeners. And for those who already know the story, you know how to retire early, we're just going to rehash the same stuff, but put a new twist on it and talk about it in a different light. So if you have any questions along the way, pop those in the comments. Be happy to answer any of those questions. But a couple of things. The first one is I've been seeing some interesting articles. Like for instance, there's one I'll put in the comments after about hey Watts. About the antibodies. People are testing positive for the antibodies, meaning they've had COVID or been exposed to COVID-19 and since recovered. Some people aren't showing symptoms, they've recovered from it. But what we know is that from the studies that we're seeing, a lot more people have COVID-19 than we thought. So if a lot more people in one study, the California study that I was reading, it seemed pretty legitimate. They were testing people for the antibody, and something like 4.6% or something of the population had it in California. So interesting if that's the case, and I think it is the case because I know lots of people in London, Ontario that have had COVID or have been exposed directly with someone who had COVID, didn't get tested, but know the person who got tested and are sure that they shared enough space that they would have got it too. Got sick with the same symptoms of COVID, didn't report to anyone, and then recovered and were just fine. So there are people who are recovering who are just fine. What we know is that this is a serious thing, right? Like it's like pneumonia. Pneumonia kills thousands of people a week all through the flu season, right? So but that's no one ever publishes that, right? No one ever shuts the economy down for that. It may be an overreaction, I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor, but what we do know is I think what we're finding is that the number of cases of COVID that actually exist are like 40 times higher than are reported. The only accurate numbers we have are those being hospitalized for COVID. That's an accurate number. Now, the people dying from COVID, some of those death certificates are, I would call, labeling the straw that broke the camel's back, is basically what they're doing here, right? Like someone who was already in like stage 4 cancer, really is dying of cancer, would have died from like a breeze, but then they got COVID and they died, right? So did they really die from COVID? Anyway, so the death certificates we're seeing are, I think, a little higher than probably they should be, being mislabeled a little bit. But let's just assume that all those death certificates that are being labeled COVID-19 are actually just COVID-19. If there are 40 times more cases, which is what we're finding from the data of people being tested who have the antibody, meaning they were exposed to COVID-19, that means that the death rate is actually 40 times lower than we think. Because we know how many people are actually dying of it. We know how many people are actually being hospitalized because we're tracking that. But we don't know how many people actually have had the virus. And there's way more people that are being exposed to it than they're reporting. And if, like, let's say 5% of the population has now been exposed to it, the death rate is actually pretty close to, if you run the numbers, I shared it on my Instagram at Mike Rosehart, the actual numbers. If you assume now that, like, based on those studies, that 40 times more people have been exposed to it, like 4 or 5% of the population now potentially has been exposed to COVID, then the death rate is actually pretty close to the common flu, if you're healthy. In fact, no, just in general. But if you're healthy, the same pretty much as the common flu. So death rate's actually a lot lower. Hospitalization rate, right? We're talking about like a 1% death rate, or like much, much lower than that. Hospitalization rate, again, a much, much lower. I could pull up the numbers here. But anyway, that's not what this segment's going to be about. I just wanted to share that because every week I've been doing an update about COVID-19. I think you should be safe. I think you shouldn't expose yourself unnecessarily. I do think that anyone watching this should take precautions. I'm wearing masks when I'm going out. I'm not touching anything. I'm washing my hands religiously. I'm keeping social distancing, but I'm carrying on with life. And that's the important part. People are paralyzing themselves, and like the economic overreaction and shutdown, I think is too much. So that's a big piece that I just keep wanting to address here, because I think that there's something else going on here. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but maybe it's a grab for power by the government. Maybe it's something else, some other hidden agenda. Maybe it's a setup for a war to bring the economy into strength in North America. I don't know. But I think that maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just an overreaction by the government. Let's just hope that that's what it is. But let's be clear, it's an overreaction. I think if more people were exposed to the virus, and we had like 10% or 20% of our population, which I think is coming, 10 or 20% of the population probably will get it. It's highly contagious. It's easy to get. So if a lot of people are getting exposed to it, and then we'll see the true death rate. And I think what we're going to find is that it's in line with like a severe or a slightly severe flu. So anyway, check that study out. I'll send a link to it. There's another one I was looking at too, where now they can test if you've had the antibodies for COVID-19, meaning you've been exposed to it or had it. Either you weren't symptomatic or you got it and it was like I actually had a couple weeks ago, I didn't want to put it on social media because I don't want people to think that I had COVID, but for like 2 days, I had a lot of the symptoms. I was really sick for like a day and a half, and maybe I had it. I don't even know. It's possible. It's possible my family had it too. I don't know. But I think that's overreaction, big time. A big time overreaction. Did Epstein kill himself? No, guys. He was best friends with Bill Gates. Don't you know? Gates went to the island all the time. Have you guys been following some of those conspiracy theories? He actually did go to Epstein's island, though. Like Bill Gates was known to have gone there. Let's go with some question and answer, and then we'll get into like the real topic here, which is how do you retire early? What do you do through this economic climate? And how do we react economically from the repercussions of the overreaction of the government, right? To shut everything down, pretty much. One thing coming out of this, one trend I think that I just want to share before I get into the nuts and bolts about how to retire early, because it's actually pretty dead simple, is businesses are moving online. So retailers that were like brick and mortar are realizing that they can sell things online. And so there's gonna be a lot less demand for commercial real estate. So if you're in commercial real estate in any way, I think that's gonna be a big pullback. I've been bearish on commercial real estate for a long time. I've believed in the trend for the last 5 years, that I think that like universities and colleges are going more online. And that's now a trend. Like I think a lot more people are gonna figure out that they can learn and deliver content using technology. You can like wear virtual reality stuff now that feels like you're in a classroom, right? And you can enforce the same sorts of like attendance type pieces to keep people accountable virtually. So that might mean that brick and mortar universities and colleges may be going away. I knew this in 2010, 2012 when Treehouse came out with these really great online programs. I was seeing a ton of this online stuff where you could learn to code, you could learn to do all these different things online for free. And I was like, wow, this is cool. This is the future of education. Having been through, an economics degree and been through studied psychology at Western University and the Richard Ivey School of Business, I can attest that most of my studying didn't really happen in the classroom. Most of it happened in a desk at home, me like reading and cramming. So, I mean, the social aspect is great of university and college. And I think there'll always be a piece for that. But something we should consider, I think, going out of COVID-19, businesses are going to be operating differently than they did before. Universities are going to be operating, the school system is going to be operating in a different environment than it did before. This has implications for, again, commercial real estate is a good example. Anyone who has any brick and mortar type stuff, it's going to change, right? The environment in which we're operating in is changing. But if you can get ahead of that curve, if you could sell courses online, for instance, people are looking to consume online content now more than ever. It'd be a great business to be in. I think online courses are going to do very, very well in the coming years. I wouldn't be surprised if my daughter, by the time she gets to university time, is like, I want to do a 1 year picking these 20 courses that I want to take to learn to become like a master real estate investor, or learn to become like whatever profession or skill, or like be like get an entrepreneur's MBA in 1 year online. And that type of thing is going to exist because you won't have useless electives. Like I had to suffer through a sociology class. I remember in first year, an essay sociology class. It was forced. I had to write essays every week. It was so annoying. I didn't enjoy the content. The teacher was terrible. The classes it was filled with a bunch of social justice warriors who were just arguing that like capitalism's evil and like money's evil and we should just like destroy society. And these educational, like, I don't know, there's some paradigms there that I don't even want to get into, but you shouldn't have to be forced to learn and take courses that you don't enjoy. And that's the current university and college curriculum. You're forced to take courses that are core to your program that are not going to help you at all in the real world. So that's a huge benefit, I think, coming out of this, is we're going to realize that those non-essential things, we don't need them in our life. And so that's amazing. So get on that trend, get on that bandwagon, invest in that. Technology, again, more important now than ever. I've been saying that we are blessed to live in the world that we live in today, in the sense that wherever before in history was there a chance to climb the economic ladder as easily as it is today. Like I grew up with non-affluent parents, right? Like a single mom, she's making like minimum wage. I wasn't exposed to anyone wealthy. There was no one to teach me about real estate investing. There was no one to teach me about how to do, creative financing or how to put together a deal, or even how to like act with good business acumen, or write offers, or all those things that I had to learn how to do. I learned most of what I know today, not from a mentor, but for free online in forums, often through just poking at people who are more successful than I was. And that's all like my success today. The reason I'm a multimillionaire is because of the internet. I was able to access information at a library, not even on my own computer, at a library. I didn't get my own computer till I was in grade 9. My first time with like internet connection, I think it was in grade 8 or grade 9. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 18. I used other people's landlines until I was 18. So I grew up in an age where like I was too poor. My parents didn't pay for a cell phone for me, and we lived like kind of rural, so there was like hardly any internet besides dial-up. But even I was able, with that limited technology, I was able to learn all about real estate investing. And I failed a bit, and I learned through that failure, right? And you guys have seen me document on the channel for the last, almost 2 years now, maybe, year and a half. I don't know how long we've been doing this YouTube channel for, but a while. And I was blogging in 2016, 2017. I stopped paying for my blog, so it turned off. But I had like 50 or 100 articles on there where I was blogging and writing about a lot of what I was doing. And that's a blessed time. Up until, the last 15 years or so, there was no way. You had to find someone who was doing this and then apprentice under them, or like meet them for coffee, or like have a face-to-face. There was no way, like no one was writing books about this, just no one was talking about it. The internet makes all this information free, and it makes it out there for everyone to ingest. And I think that that's the future coming out of COVID, is that we need to realize how blessed we actually are. It's just fantastic. And by the way, I see all the comments coming in there. I can't read them all right now because I'm just going on a rant, but I will in a second go line by line, question by question, and hit all of those questions for you guys. I try my best to provide absolute transparency, and I pretty much just speak what's on my mind. Again, I probably should have at the bottom of every single video, I am not a CPA. I did go down that path, but didn't finish. And I am not by any means a lawyer or accounting professional, and so do not trust any of my advice. I did work as a financial planner for a time, but I'm no longer licensed. And so anything I say is just my own opinions. So yeah, I gotta say that because I gotta protect myself, eh? But okay, let's do some questions, and then I'll go into, I'll do the how you can retire early. So how do you retire early in 5 years? What is the math behind this, right? It's super dead simple. If I can find out what you're spending, I can tell you, and what you're earning, I can tell you exactly how long it's gonna take you to retire, right? By manipulating the variables. Effectively, it's what you're earning against your spend rate will equal how much you're saving, and then I can figure out how much you actually need to retire based on your current spend rate. So it really comes down to your burn rate. That's the most important part. And your burn rate is how much you need to live, how much you spend. If you have a Lambo in the driveway and a brand new BMW on lease, and you're traveling 6 times a year for vacation, for fun, and you live in a 8,000 square foot house in Bel Air, you're not, and you're making 150 grand a year, you're not going to retire in 5 years. It's just not going to happen unless you get some lucky windfall. But I like to look with certainties, and with absolute certainty, anyone can retire in 5 years. That requires you to reduce your burn rate. So I'll give you an example. If you made 100 grand a year And you could learn to live on 10 grand a year through rent hacking or house hacking, which means maybe you lived on 20 grand a year, but you had 10,000 in rent income from a roommate you brought in, or you had a lower unit in your own house you live in, you could bring in to reduce your spending. So like myself, for instance, we spend like 40, 50 grand a year, something like that. I don't track it exactly anymore because it doesn't really matter to me. It's a waste of my time. There was a time when I tracked it religiously, but now like I could literally spend whatever, it doesn't matter. So I audit from time to time to see what I'm spending. Like I'll just like look at one of my statements and see what I've been spending. But let's say I spend 40 or 50 grand right now a year. I house hack, so I have my lower unit that brings in another, $2,500 a month, let's say. That means I'm really spending not like 4 or 5 grand a month, but really spending like less than 2 grand a month because I house hack. So that's how I get my living expenses way down. I spend less than the poverty line every year, and I live a great life. So that's an example of like how you could do that. But you can do it with rent hacking. If you don't have the money to buy a house, you can just rent a place and then get roommates. But yeah, so you're spending, first start with what you're spending. So if you're spending, say, 25 grand a year net, so maybe you're spending 40 grand, but you have a roommate to help offset some of your costs, or you rent out your basement, or you have some way to generate some expense offset, let's call it. So you're spending like 25 grand a year. 25 grand a year means you need, based on the 4% safe withdrawal rate, $625,000 to retire early, right? Now, if you use an 8% safe withdrawal rate, if you're in real estate, 8% safe withdrawal rate from your cash flow is really, really conservative actually. But if you're mostly a stock portfolio, again, most of the professionals will say a 4% safe withdrawal rate is the safe way to go. In real estate, especially in my area, we have 10 cap rate type properties, which allow us to withdraw every year 8% from our portfolio pretty safely. And then we still have mortgage pay down and appreciation, keeping everything growing and beating inflation, right? So real estate's a great way with leverage because you can put 20% down, you can get a 5-to-1 return. So 8% is like super conservative. The people who retire on 3 or 4 or 5 properties, they put a couple $100,000 into those properties as down payments and they just live on the cash flow. So there are ways to generate great returns, but let's not look at that. I talk about that on the channel. That is a way to retire early faster, but you don't even need that to retire early in 5 years. You can do it without any real estate, just with the stock portfolio. So let's just assume a 4% return, super low return. You don't invest in real estate, you just do stocks, collect a 4% return. Again, we know that you can get, I know you guys are gonna jump in the comments and say, hey, Mike, I can live off the rental income from 2 properties that I own. They generate $1,000 a month each or something. I know, you can get great returns on your money in real estate because of leverage. But let's just pretend you can't for the people who are following who don't want to get involved in real estate. And then if you are investing in real estate, just know that instead of 5 years, you could retire in like a year and a half. If I had to start tomorrow, I could walk you guys through. Someone's going to ask this probably. But Mike, what would you do if you started again from fresh? In 2-3 years, I'd be retired again. Starting at 0, I'd be back there again. It'd be actually a lot easier than the first time I did it because I have the knowledge and experience and the connections. But money's not really that, like money helps, sure. I can get into deals that I couldn't before. Looking at multi-million-dollar deals, it's fun, it's great. But I could put those together, to be honest, without any of my own money these days. And if I had none, I would start and I would show you. I'll show you guys later. At the end of the segment, someone will remind me and I'll walk you guys through. I did it about 15 weeks ago because I do every Wednesday we go live, right? And I did if you guys who watch loyally, you remember, I did one where I walked through how I would start again and I showed how I would get back to where I am today. And every time you ask me, I have a little bit different spin and a little bit different flavor, but it just sort of depends on what mood I'm in. But okay, so to finish this line of thought that I had, you say you spend 25 grand a year, so your $25,000 a year is like you can live well on 25,000 a year, a couple grand a month. You're like, hey, a couple grand a month, I can live well. That'll sustain all my living costs. That's my retirement budget. So what do I need to get enough? How much do I need in passive income? Well, you need $25,000 a year in passive income to cover those expenses. So how much do you need in a nest egg to support that passive income? It's the 4% rule, so you divide it out and it's 25 years of living expenses. If you have 25 years of living expenses set aside, so 25 years of living expenses times 25,000 spending gives you what, $625,000? So you have 625,000 in your nest egg that you need to retire early, right? So that's the important piece there. Oh, my dog's trying to get in. Little bugger. Can you see him there? He's a bugger. What was I gonna say? Lost my train of thought there. Dog interrupted my thoughts. He's like, I was trying to eat your homework, Mike. So $625,000. How do you get there in 5 years? It's pretty simple. basically the answer to retiring in 5 years is based on a 90% savings rate. So you'd have to be making enough that you can save 90% of your income. So if you make 50 grand a year, you have to find a way to live on like 5 grand a year, which again means you have to house hack or rent hack to get there in 5 years. Or you have to be starting with some assets at this point. So if you're like 30 years old right now and have a house with $100,000 in equity in it, then you can retire in 5 years. If you're just starting fresh right now, you have to find a way to live on 10% of your income, or increase your income enough that you can save it all. And hang on, so I'll explain that in a sec. I saw a comment pop up. It was actually really relevant. So $625,000 for 25 years, you're forgetting inflation. No. So no, the idea is this. If you had $625,000, on average, your portfolio generates in the S&P 500, if you're just like putting it out there in a diversified fund, if you're not investing in real estate or businesses or private lending, which all generate way higher than about 6.9 to 7.3%. So roughly about 6.9 to 7.1% returns what you can expect. Inflation hedges around 2%. I like to say this: withdraw 4% from your portfolio, leave 3% in. So your portfolio will make around, on average, 7% every year. You'll leave 3% in for inflation, so your money keeps growing. Your $625,000 in year 2 is going to be like $18,000 higher, $20,000 higher, something like that. So it'd be like like $20,000 higher. So you'd leave about $20,000 in. That's the 3% growth for inflation. So on year 2, you have $645,000 in your portfolio, and you've withdrawn the $25,000 you need to live. Because the idea is you're growing at 7% every year. That's roughly what the stock market averages. Now, part of that involves having a percentage in what we'll call, and again, I'm being super conservative, by the way, saying the 7%. I'm doing a 7% before inflation. So I'm doing a 4% real return is what I'm assuming that you can withdraw. So I'm assuming that $625,000 adjusts with inflation each and every, so the buying power stays the same if you throw the 3% for inflation back into your portfolio. So the 4% is what you can withdraw without depleting the buying power of your $625,000. Does that make sense? So you can withdraw 4% every year. Again, if you're in real estate or you have a percentage of your wealth in real estate, you can withdraw around an 8% safe withdrawal rate. I still want to do a video about this. I sat on Excel and crunched all the numbers, and based on my portfolio, I buy 10 cap properties. So my down payment typically performs at 40% rate of return. At a 40% cash flow rate of return, assuming appreciation is equal to inflation, so basically there's no appreciation, it just moves out of inflation, which is, we've tended to see growth of real estate be slightly outpacing inflation, but pretty much the appreciation on your property covers the inflation if you own it in cash. Now, if you're levered, if you put 20% down in your property, now when it appreciates 3%, as you guys know, we're levered 5 to 1, 20% down means every dollar you put up, the bank puts up 4. So every dollar you put up buys you $5 in real estate. So if you're buying real estate, then, or percentage of your portfolio is in real estate, you could easily withdraw 8%. That's like the most conservative withdrawal rate I can think of from a real estate portfolio that's levered up, meaning it has mortgages attached to the properties. So that's why I love real estate. That's why I preach about real estate, because you can't do leveraged stock investing the way you can with real estate. You just can't go borrow at, I have a mortgage going on my house at 1.34%, 5-year variable. I can't borrow money that cheaply against any other asset class except for real estate in Canada. Even my businesses, I can't go with my businesses to the bank and borrow at 2%. But I can take a property to the bank and I can go borrow at 2%, 80% loan to value on it, like that, right? So that's the advantage of real estate. But back to our main point there, I'm glad you brought that to a pause, give it a chance for everyone to ruminate. Yeah, I know, Anthony, it's crazy, 1.34. It was a glitch on HSBC's website, and they are honoring it. So we'll see if they fund tomorrow, but fingers crossed, there's a commitment to the lawyer and the refinance is going on. It's been appraised, everything's good to go. But yeah, it's fantastic that it has to look at that rate. It was a glitch on their website, and then Prime dropped. Just as Prime was dropping, remember you guys, I was doing videos when Prime dropped 50 basis points, et cetera, and so forth. Their website automatically adjusted the rate, and I just locked it in with a screenshot, and they're honoring it for me. I guess got lucky, applied in the 24-hour window that it was open. It's because I go to websites like ratespy.com, and I get alerts, and I watch the rates all the time. They send me alerts whenever rates change, and this one popped up, and I locked it in. Ratespy.com, I pump them. They should really give me a sponsorship, because I tell everyone to go there. They're better than RateHub. I'm sorry, RateHub, if someone's watching this. It's just like, I love your credit card stuff, but their interest rates, you have to pay. I think that they do sponsorships with their ads, and they only promote the lenders that pay them the most money, whereas RateSpy actually is pretty authentic, and they have better rates. So anyway, get off that tangent here. But the idea is that, how do you get there? if you look at the simple math, it works like this. If you could save 90% of your income, so if you made it 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, made 100 grand a year, 50,000 from one spouse, 50,000 from the other, that gives you 100 grand a year as a family, so 50,000 each. It's pretty average Canadian type earnings. If you made 50 grand each and you can find a way to live on 10 grand a month, which means you probably had roommates or you rented out your basement apartment or you found a way to keep costs low, maybe you had to live with your parents or something, but you could do this for a short period of time, right? To retire early. What are you willing to sacrifice to gain this new thing, right? Or maybe you just pick up a weekend side hustle that covers your living expenses. So on the evenings when you get home from work at 6 o'clock, you pick up a side business and you make just enough money to cover your food, your housing, your basic necessities. You cut everything back and you live frugally for 5 years. And if you can find a way to save 90% of your day job income, 90%, that's the target you have to get to. I did it, so I know it's possible. I have other friends who have done it. I know it's possible. Especially with rental properties. You can use the rental properties to offset your living expenses, and then all your day job salary can go towards saving. And a lot of people that do this. You can pick up, there's tons of side hustles you can pick up to just generate income. And if you can't pick up a side hustle, you can always cut your expenses. So it works like this. If you're to save, if you're on the math, you need to replace 10% of your income in, here. Oh, my laptop's dead, darn it. I didn't plug my laptop in before I started this and my charger's not in this room, or I'd bring up the spreadsheet right now that I have that would walk you guys through it. But essentially the math works like this. So I guess we'll just do it, we'll try to do it in my head. I have a spreadsheet that I did this on a couple years ago, but if you're making 100 grand and you're saving 90% of it, so just for easy math, we're gonna do it this way. So year one, you save $90,000, right? And you need, you're trying to replace that 10% expenses, right? So if you live on 90% savings rate, then 10% of your expenses is $10,000 a year. So you have to build up a big enough portfolio to produce like $10,000 a month in passive income to cover those living expenses. And if you're super frugal, you can do that. Now, if you save like 50% of your income, the math works out with compound interest to like 16 years, I think it is, to retire early. So if you wanted to save half of your income and you had no way to increase your income, you weren't willing to pick up a side hustle, you didn't want to buy real estate, you just wanted to invest in stocks and just work your job, then you would need to be working about 16 years at a 50% savings rate. So if you were to make 100 grand a year and save 50,000 of it, then that would get you there in 16 years. Again, if you didn't buy any real estate. If you bought real estate or you had some great appreciation or things like that, then you could get there a lot faster. And more likely than not, that's what we'll see. We've seen appreciation. We've seen those types of things happen. We've seen leverage. But yeah, the math is dead simple. In 5 years, you can get there. Early retirement extremes, Jacob Fisker did it as the living proof. I think what did he make? It's been so long since I've read the book, but I think I got a chance to meet him too. He's a great guy, super frugal. But he's able to live, I think they live on like $9,000 a year each. So him and his girlfriend each spend like, or maybe their wife now, each spend like $7,000 to $9,000 a year, right? And the idea is that they live super frugally. And that's an example of like, if you're willing to forego the modern conveniences and you're willing to live a little more frugally, you don't have to work. And so that's basically the idea behind it. But as you move from 90% savings rate down to 50% savings rate, the timeline increases. So I think at like, I think at 90% savings rate, it's got to be darn close to like 3 or 4 years. If you're at 75% savings rate, it's at like, and by the way, this will be take home income too. So I'm just assuming take home. So that would mean like if you make 50 grand a year, most people make 50 grand a year, their take home is like 38, something like that. So here in Canada anyway, after you get your credits back and you contribute to your RSP, you're around 38,000 net take home. And that's after all your deductions and then credits back. So that'd be like someone making 50 grand a year, 2 couples, then they really are taking home like 38 times 2. So 76,000 take home on 100,000 gross for a couple. But yeah, I mean, it's totally doable. We were doing it. One thing that I like to apply with real estate investing, this is something that I like, or picking up side hustle businesses, is I say this, like, if you can't find a way, first off, like, save as much as you can. Get your spending way down. Like, if you're spending $50,000 a year, you're spending let's say you're a couple, you each made 50 grand a year, and you're spending $75,000 a year, which is almost your entire take home. You're saving $1,000 a year. You need to cut your spending. Like, right now, I can tell you, you can guarantee cut your spending. If I can live, I live in an $850,000 house. And I live in a great neighborhood in London. I'm not bragging, I'm just making a point. And I spend less than $2 grand a month. My mortgage, and that's because I don't include mortgage principal. I only include mortgage interest in my expenses. Mortgage principal, like the principal portion, the pay down on your mortgage payment, let's say your mortgage payments, I think mine in this case is like $2,400 a month or something. If it's $2,400 a month and like 1,000 is principal and 1,400, or 1,400 is principal and 1,000 is interest. The 1,000 interest is your real expense. So there's 1,000 interest, there's your property taxes, there's your insurance, there's your utilities, there's your maintenance on your house, there's your transportation, miscellaneous spending, all of that, less whatever rental income you can bring in from your house. So if you have rooms in your basement, or you have an apartment in your basement, or if you don't, change your life. If you want to retire, go buy a duplex that's soundproofed and rent it out, and then you'd be able to get your costs way down, which is what I've always had to do. That's how I can live in a $850,000 house and have no mortgage payment, is because I house hack. But if I was just to live with no roommates, if it was like that important to me, which it isn't, I actually enjoy having roommates. It's just a thing for me. We have our own separate units, they're soundproofed and they're locked, and so we don't need to go into each other's unit. But if that was important to you and you didn't want to have anyone living beside you, you just have to live in a lot smaller house. Like, we'd probably do like the tiny house living, to be honest. If I was not house hacking, I'd probably just buy a $200,000 house in London, or I'd rent somewhere cheap. Like, dude, there's some nice rentals around here for like $1,600, $1,700, $1,800 a month. I've seen some new build houses rent for $1,900 plus utilities. So you could find some places to live relatively cheaply, and then just, again, like, keep costs low that way, right? By not spending on the miscellaneous stuff, not spending on eating out, all this kind of stuff. If you save and basically spend less, then you save more and you retire sooner. Someone popped up, does your $25,500 expense include debt? And I don't have any debt. Any debt that I have is tied to rental properties which produce cash flow. So debt payments typically that I have would be like, I have a mortgage for, I think, $1,200 on a rental property. And let's say it's rented out for $2,000 a month. Then I'm, after all expenses, cash flow positive. So my debts are paid for by assets. I don't borrow for a car because a car depreciates. That's a bad use of capital. I wouldn't borrow to finance education because, again, you guys know I graduated school debt free. I wanted to write a book on it, but then I got busy working and grinding. I was like, now I'm too old. I've been out of school too long to write a book on like how to graduate university debt free. And I went to the most expensive university in Canada, the Richard Ivey School of Business, like $27,000 a year. But it's, if you work hard and save, you can graduate debt free. So there's no need to go into debt for school. Just work as you go. Like, I think tuition on average in Canada here is like $9,000 a year, something like that, $10,000 a year. If you can't make $10,000 in a year, like, what are you doing? School is not a full-time thing. You can spend 40, 50 hours maximum on school, and that's if you like really are struggling and need to study. But then that leaves another 50 hours a week for other stuff. Like, people are awake. Geez, how many hours are you awake in a week? If you're awake like 17 hours a day, times 7 days a week, like, you get like over 100 hours, well over 100 hours in a week to do stuff, right? Like, maybe you got a budget 15 hours a week for relaxation or something, right? But problem is people budgeting 60 hours a week for Netflix, and they should be spending time with part-time job. That's the honest truth. People don't work hard enough, and that's why there's consumer debt the way that it is today. And there you go. $10,000 a year in Alberta, not hard to graduate without debt, just gotta work. That's it. Apply for scholarships, apply for bursaries, and then go get a part-time job and live frugally. People are out there at the bar like dropping $150 of mommy and daddy's money. And oftentimes it's not mommy and daddy's money. Oftentimes it's OSAP debt that they're racking up while they're at the club and they're enjoying it and this and that. And it's, everyone, when I was going to school, was living in like a really nice, I had buddies paying $700 a month for their places. I was renting a crappy room for $299 a month. My rent was half everyone else's. Now, I had a small single bed room. I didn't have like nice amenities while I went to school. I biked and I took the free bus pass that came with our tuition. I was frugal. I didn't go out. I didn't go out and drink, go to the bar, do any of that kind of stuff. That's how you get there. That same mentality, though, if you graduate from school, you continue to live like a student, then you will build wealth fast, especially if you're working full time. So that's how you retire early. It's not the sexy, I mean, there's multiple ways to retire early. You could spend a lot more if you're earning a lot more, right? Like, if you were to get into real estate the way I have, like right now I could easily spend $100,000 a year and I would still be building wealth. My earn rate is so high now that it doesn't matter as much what my burn rate is. Out of principle, I don't like to waste. So for me, it just doesn't make sense. But for someone who really needed that luxury in their life, they needed that BMW and they need this and that, that's okay. Just work harder and then you can have that and still retire early. But you can't have everything. You can't spend everything you earn and not want to work hard and expect to retire early. There's certain inputs are required to retire early. And those inputs are spending a lot less, finding ways to earn more money to offset the spend, and then saving the difference so you can actually retire early and live on that. But let's do it with someone I was going to ask. I'll do the Q&A now because we're 35 minutes in. But I guarantee I'm pretty sure I saw a comment come up that said, what would you do if you started early? Or started again and had to retire early? So I'll walk you guys through it because I would use real estate to do it because it's way, way faster than the slow grind of myself and my wife working full time and just saving, which again, that strategy can work, especially with house hacking. We can do it in like 5 years, but I wish I had my laptop on right now. It's dead. If I had my laptop on, I could just crunch the numbers in Excel and show you guys just how quick I could do this. But we'll try and do it in the head. Try and do it up here. I'm not as sharp as I once was. I used to be so good with arithmetic in my head. I used to be able to do like long division and a multiplication in my head. In high school, I was really good with that. I used to memorize. I had the whole periodic table of elements memorized too for like a grade 10 science class. It was like hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, whatever. I've lost it now. Mike purchased a condo in Vancouver for $520,000 2 years ago. Martin asks, I moved back to London, so renting it out with no cash flow, unfortunately. I can sell it right now for $490,000 with a $30,000 loss, but can I invest in London? That's a bummer. Must have invested in Vancouver at the top of the market. It's always interesting. I just want to like make a random aside, but all the investors I meet that invest in Vancouver and Toronto, their logic for investment has typically been grounded in, the appreciation's better. This and that are better about this market. And like fundamentally the markets are better. I agree. They're more stable and economically strong. That's why the cap rate's so low in Vancouver and Toronto. But the appreciation has been better in the smaller towns like London than it has in Vancouver or Toronto. To be honest, like Toronto, the appreciation rates have been lower compared to somewhere like London over the last 20 years even. So the appreciation game isn't there. The cash flow isn't there. Other than like wealth, capital preservation, I can't think of a good reason why you want to invest in those markets unless you had to live there. And I can't see a reason why you'd have to live there because you could just live in the outskirts where it's cheaper. But I don't know. I got buddies who live in Vancouver. I actually, like 3 really good friends of mine live in Vancouver. I should just ask them. One buddy of mine, he would tell me that it's about the lifestyle and that you can't put a price on never being able to be evicted, of owning your house. And so those are all actually, those carry no economic weight. They're all emotional logic reasons. There's logic to it. It's emotional, not of any good economic fundamental. But to finally answer your question, Martin, depends on a lot of factors like, do you have a breakout fee on your mortgage? Do you have a mortgage on the property? If you could bring out $490,000 cash on your property and then redeploy that in London, $500,000 goes really far in London. $500,000 levered up, that's enough down payment to buy $2.5 million in real estate. And in London, you could qualify, right? Ultra Dodge, I saw Papa. How old are you? I am 27. 27 years old, I know. Started this channel when I was 25. It's crazy. I'm now 27. Retired when I was 24. So for the last 3 years, I've been just, hanging out and enjoying the good life. Guess, I'm growing a little goatee. Just starting out here. I had a beard going, but I shaved it off because his cheeks were getting itchy. Okay, next question. Let's do the lightning round. I gotta go a little faster here because we're 39 minutes in. And I saw someone pop up and say that I should write a book, and I do want to write a book. I'm looking at a space where I think there'd be a great little tiny house studio that I could build. And I'd love to just lock myself out there and spend the better part of a summer just writing a couple of really good books. But if anyone knows a good ghostwriter, hook me up. I might be open to that too, because then I could spend more time focused on growing the real estate business and still get a book out there. But I started writing a couple of books and I just never finished them. I started one about how to graduate school debt free. I started another one on how to pay down all your debt in 3 years. I was starting to write another book on the roadmap to early retirement. that was going to be a good one. It's going to be really comprehensive. I was going to write one on my story. I plan to do that, but again, I haven't accomplished enough in my life yet. Like, I've got to get to 100 million or a billion status to really have any major impact. Millionaire Mindset Millennial. Nice name. Hey, how's it going? And I'm gonna get there. Like, I just run the numbers and I see, like, at a 13% compounded annual growth rate, we're looking at, geez, I should be able to hit a billion in my life. I don't know what the value of that billion will be, probably closer to like 500 million buying power, but yeah, like, if you can build wealth early on in your life, it is the best possible thing you can do for your financial future. The sooner you start building wealth and then compounding that wealth every year, the better off you'll be, just in general. Like, if you gave someone millions of dollars in their 20s and they started growing that at 13, 15% compounded, geez, like, the sky's the limit, right? Yeah, something like that, DD. About 40 years, something like that. But hang out, guys, because 40 years from now, maybe I'll still be on YouTube here and I'll have a proper crew and I'll be super wealthy. I keep practicing the principles. I've been trying to target a 25% growth rate on my net worth, and I've hit that consistently for 8 years now. That's because of real estate, right? Like, 25% growth on my real estate. It's getting hard on my net worth. It's getting harder though, because as I build equity in my properties, I have to pull it out and then keep working. If I let the equity build up, if I let the mortgages get paid down, or I let the properties appreciate and I don't pull that equity back out, then the equity's trapped in the property and it's not earning any money for me. So the key to keeping a 25% growth rate means you have to pull the money out of the property and keep the money rolling. That's hard to do. I have to find like a deal every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, like to buy a property, or find like big deals every couple of months, or buy businesses every year in order to, at least one business every year, in order to keep that trajectory going. So when you get to like Warren Buffett's level, you need a whole team just to, geez, you need the whole army of people just to work on managing your capital. And I'm learning this now, just like at the start of the tip of the iceberg. But I have friends who have like 10, 20, 30 million, or people I've met, not really acquaintances, I guess, that have more money. And it's a job just keeping their money working hard for them. Like, it's easy to have your money sit there and work for you at 7%, but to keep your money working for you at 20 or 25%, you have to input skills. You have to input, like, you have to be buying businesses strategically. You have to be adding time. So it's like your money plus your skill and your time. And money can unlock, higher returns if you put your time into, right? And that's a big thing I've always learned, is that if you just invest your money and put no time into it, your money won't grow near as hard or as fast for you as it would have. So, food for thought. You got to spend time to make money. It's not just money makes money. It's time, money, and skill make more money. It's easy. A fool and his money are soon parted, right? So that's something to keep in mind. If you're silly with your money and you don't take good care of it, your soldiers are going to leave you. They're going to abandon you. Hey, Andrew, how you doing? Brandon, Bob, Steven. Good to see you guys all on. Dee. Okay, so DJ says, buy Bitcoin, silver, and gold. I wrote an article, I don't know, 2 years ago or something like that, about Bitcoin was trading at like a little over $20,000. I think that was roughly the price point, a little over $20,000. And people were calling it was going to go to the moon. Everyone's like, it's $100,000 for Bitcoin. Like, there was this time where like even institutional investors were starting to get involved. And I wrote an article back then about how I didn't believe in it. I don't own any cryptocurrency at all. I would hold a tiny percent in your portfolio, maybe. I can see how it's not some value. But here's the thing with cryptocurrency. It's the same thing with gold and silver. I hold gold and silver, physical gold and silver, not paper, because of, if at the end of the world, if the fiat currency collapses, right? It's good to have some physical stuff you can barter with. Same thing, I believe in land. But here's the thing with cryptocurrency. It isn't tangible, as in you don't physically have it. If the network goes down, it's possible it can be hacked, to be taken, right? So there's one, it's not physical. That's a minor problem because you can fix those types of problems. 2, it doesn't provide any cash flow. The only play with cryptocurrency, and don't get me on a tangent here because I could do a whole video just on this, and I wrote the article back then about it, and maybe I'll share the article. I'll post it on LinkedIn for those people who follow me on LinkedIn. I'll go find that post and then share it there so you guys can read it. But I predicted Bitcoin would drop to like 6,000. I thought the intrinsic value was way lower. I'll get to all your questions. I see you guys jump in the comments here, and I promise I'll try to do my best to get to all those. But cryptocurrency, it generates no cash flow. You're buying something that has no intrinsic value at all. Its only value is the perceived value someone else will pay you for it. So if tomorrow there's a better crypto, better technology, is this still live? I believe so. Alexander, I believe it is still live. Someone confirm that you guys can still see me. The clock is still ticking. I see 70 people in the stream, so I think it's still going. 72 people in the stream. So yeah, it's still going. But okay, so the problem with crypto is that it generates no cash flow. It has only one stream of income, and that it's not even a stream of income. You can sell it to someone else for more than you bought it for. I'm gonna try to go through all the comments. I'm gonna try, but I'm going on a tangent here because people are obsessed with cryptocurrency in general, and I'm just not. I don't believe in it long term. I like to buy real estate that generates cash flow. I like that with real estate, you have multiple avenues of tax efficiency, cash flow to service the debt. If you can't sell the real estate, at least you have cash flow. If you're stuck holding crypto, it's doing nothing for you. It's like a gold bar. A gold bar, even gold. Like I hold a little bit of gold and silver because of doomsday types events and just to protect as a hedge. But I honestly think land is a better store of value than gold. Land has utility value. Gold's utility value is like 1/4 of the price. I think it's like $800 an ounce or something is like the utility value of it being used in iPhones and things like that. But the rest is all speculative value. And if it's all speculation, which is all cryptocurrency is, there's very little utility value. There could be some utility value. I could see it being used for cartel or for like the seedy parts of the world using that as a way for governments not to track them. I can see the utility value of a crypto existing. I think the technology is really smart. I love the technology. I would invest in companies that are involved in technology for sure. I think that blockchain is the future for even like credit card companies. I could see them buying out a lot of that technology and bringing it in from an encryption standpoint and a security standpoint. But the idea that cryptocurrency, if you're buying cryptocurrency as an investment, you're speculating. And I don't speculate as an investor. I did a video a long time ago. It was like, I can't remember it anymore. It was like, it was 2 years ago I did a video. It was like the 3 ways to invest. I made 3 personas. Annie Arbitrage, Johnny Cashflow, and Susie Speculator. Those are the 3 ways you can invest in anything. You're either, and hopefully you can be a little bit of all 3. Primarily, you're a Johnny Cashflow. Johnny Cashflow, he likes to buy things that produce cash for him all the time, every day, while he's sleeping, all the time. He likes that. He likes businesses or real estate or whatever that generates cash flow. Cash flow. That's the most important part. So Johnny Cashflow. Then there's Annie Arbitrage. And Annie Arbitrage loves to buy things for a discount. They see a $10,000 car, they buy it for $3,000, boom, they're happy. They see a house that's half price, they can buy it, they can fix it up, they can add value, they're an arbitrager. Whatever it is, they buy something, a stock that's on sale for half price, below its intrinsic book value, all of its assets are at a huge discount sale, it's trading at a huge discount on cash flow, whatever. That's an arbitrage investor. I'm a cash flow investor and an arbitrage investor. I love buying things under value. So that makes me an arbitrager. Arbitragers know how to add value to something. But the key thing about any arbitrager is that type of investor profile knows how to add value in some way. So when you renovate a property, you're physically adding value. You're in control. With crypto, you can't arbitrage because you're not in control of the price of the stock unless you're like, I guess if you're the price of the cryptocurrency. Unless you were like mining it and somehow control the supply, I guess then you can in some way be, I guess you could with crypto, if you had enough money, you could actually move the needle on price. And there's probably laws against this somewhere, but I guess if you're a big enough player, then you could be an arbitrager, in which case cryptocurrency can make sense. But for the average everyday person buying Bitcoin, you're only a Susie speculator. And a Susie speculator buys and hopes that someday they can dupe someone else into buying it off of them for more than they bought it for. That's a terrible investment decision. Don't invest as a Susie speculator. If you get some appreciation on your real estate, you get some appreciation on your stock, that's great. Like, it's great when that happens, but don't invest for that reason primarily. I expect appreciation to be very low. I don't rely on it. I make all my investment decisions assuming appreciation is 0, assuming my stocks are at 0. I buy for cash flow. I buy for undervalued today, at today's prices in today's market, at today's greater fool. I like that, Eric. That's a great point. That's the idea with cryptocurrency, is that there's a greater fool out there that'll pay more than you for it. Anyway, that was a long tangent. I'm sorry. I guess the first question was like, should you deploy your capital in London? Probably. Depends if you have a mortgage and stuff like that. And then the second question was about cryptocurrency. And let me go find it here. Well, there's a lot of questions. I appreciate y'all watching. So DJ Vertigo was the one who put that question out there. Yes and no, DJ. I think the world isn't probably ending, and I think that having a small percentage of your wealth, yeah, in physical silver or gold, not paper, but physical silver and gold to protect yourself and your family in an emergency where there's an economic shutdown, you can barter with physical silver or gold. I can see the value there. Would I have a large percentage of my net worth in any of those? More than like say 5% of my net worth? No, definitely not. Probably not even more than 1% of my net worth, to be honest. I think that cryptocurrency, you just heard my whole opinion on cryptocurrency. I'll do a video on it someday. Udemy, I don't know what Udemy is. It must be like an online university academy or something. Udemy sounds like university academy. That sounds like a great way to get access to free information or near free, $10 a month. I work in higher education, Bob says, and bricks and mortar are going under. International student market is finished permanently as we knew it. Very interesting, especially with COVID. I think that's going to have a huge play economically on rental demand. In my city, for instance, a quarter of my population in London is student related, right? So those people who are like local to London, they probably will still need to be here and et cetera and so forth. But that definitely hurts the student market here. There might be some really good deals on student rentals coming up. Fill your swimming pool full of oil and collect negative $40 a barrel. Anthony, I think you should watch actually a good video by Graham Stephan the other day. He did a great job explaining this, and I'm not going to spend the whole video explaining it, but everything he said in that video, well, 95% of what he said in that video, I totally agree with, and he did a great job explaining the idea. But you can't, like, it was for one day. The futures were on sale for like negative $36 a gallon or a barrel, but that's only for people who could actually fulfill those contracts, and you with your swimming pool legally can't fulfill those contracts. So no one was buying those except for like the large players who had like oil tankers to actually take the oil, right? So for the average person, you couldn't really buy oil for negative. But anyway, what would you even do with all the oil anyway? Just go for a swim? Oil is trading like $20-something a barrel last I checked. It's just oil futures, and the media likes to play with things. Same with sales too. Or real estate sales. Sales were down, like the volume of transactions were down like 20% because of COVID. Like no one's buying and selling, but prices haven't changed at all. Like there's been no price drops. And I saw an article. It was like real estate down 25%. It's like real estate prices are flat. It's just 25% less transactions are happening because there's an economic shutdown, and realtors are told to only take on necessity type deals. So that was the media just playing with the news and playing with the data. Oftentimes you have to look into the data, and especially even like this is like legit like CBC and stuff like that. They play with the headline. So be careful what you read. You know, do the research, look into things. Hey Mike, late to the party. Shaylin says, I just had a question about how you edited your original videos and how you optimize workflow. I started my channel recently and editing is brutally long. I hate editing. I don't edit any videos. I only do my live weekly streams, to be honest. I want to get back into it at some point, but geez, I just tell myself like my time is too valuable to be doing things. I'm frugal with my time now as much as I am with my money. And I just don't have an interest right now in editing. I used to edit with, geez, what do we use? We use Premiere Pro. That's what we edited with. And I've used Apple movies. I used Windows movies for a bit. I just shot on my iPhone and uploaded those in the very beginning. At the end of the day, I don't want to discourage people from creating YouTube channels, but most of what there is to say out there has already been said. Even my own, like that's the reason I stopped making videos. Was like, I had a list of like 100 more videos. And I was like, geez, I did some searches on YouTube and I'm like, most of these videos and all these things I wanted to say have already been said. Why would I say it again when they've been said so well by some great people? Would you do another collab with Graham Stevens? You mean Graham Stephan? Do vlogs, dude. Yeah, I mean, that's the better way to do it, to be honest. Like less editing. That's the style I go for, like pretty much this live show. I just talk and I enjoy that. And I think I have some value to share with the world, but That's why I stopped making videos. It's like there's just everyone's trying to rehash the same content. All right, Mariam, I gotta do bedtime, guys. I like your Insta stories. Thanks, appreciate that. All right, I have a lot of questions here. Jeez. Do you guys think I can even just read them all in the next like 5 minutes? Okay, rapid fire. Let's see if I can do this as quick as I possibly can. So to answer your question, those are the softwares that I used, and I don't edit a ton anymore. I used a free thumbnail generator for my thumbnails, and I spent hours. I used to spend, geez, on Friday night, I used to spend like 4 hours on thumbnail, an hour on titling, an hour on keyword optimization, and then I'd spend like 10 hours. I was spending like 15 hours per Saturday video, and the return wasn't that great. And don't get me wrong, those guys like, you know, Kevin and Graham and you know, McKeever and you know, all the guys out there who do the videos, they spend a lot of time, like full time doing this. And the thing is, like 1 in 10 take off. 9 out of 10 just waste their time. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're doing YouTube for economic reasons, don't. Unless you're like, you love editing, in which case, like, do it. I think that Graham Stefan just enjoys editing. Great guy. I would happily do a collab with him again. We're friends. Hey, Mike, as a Canadian owning property in the US, how do you work in the US? Did you get a work permit? And if so, did you get approved? Thanks for keeping the great work. So Bruce, no. I used to have I had a 3-year work permit in the US when I would do consulting. So I have had a TN1 visa before as a Canadian working in the US. In the case of like the real estate that I own down there, no, I bought it just as an investor. It's not a job, right? I'm not working there. I bought investments there, and that's allowed. Same as someone can come here and buy real estate here. They don't consider it working. They just consider that investing. Nice beard, bro. It's just a goatee, but thank you. Appreciate it. 2025 sounds like a great time to retire. Definitely. Hey, Mike, I bought a Lux condo on Richmond Street last year. It's fully managed. They send me checks. I love it. Never been there, but it looks nice. You know those ones? Thoughts on them? So Jason Bourne, yeah, I know the ones you're talking about in the Lux. I don't want to make you feel bad, but like those were so overpriced. Jeez, they're overpriced. The cap rate is terrible, and they were oversold, to be honest. I don't want to like, I'm glad they're sending you checks every month. That's the important part. I'd be surprised if you had cash flow. If you levered the thing up 80% loan to value with a proper mortgage, I'd be surprised if you made much of anything from a cash flow perspective. And if you own it in cash, I mean, there are better places you could park your cash and make more money. They're nice, they're beautiful, they're highly coveted. I'm sure they're being destroyed right now with this COVID thing because mostly international students would come there, like rich Chinese international students specifically love the Lux. And I think that's pretty much dead with COVID. So I'm scared for you, Jason, this coming September with the Lux apartments. Thankfully, London real estate's been holding pretty strong, so you haven't lost anything from an appreciation perspective or price perspective. Mike, you mentioned that you have someone from private banking managing your stock portfolio. Do they charge a management fee or percentage? Management fee. All the good brokers just charge a management fee, not a commission. Typically, all the good financial planners, the same thing for the ultra wealthy, tend to be on a fee basis, not a commission basis. Because then they're not incentivized to make trades for you and things like that, you know, decisions that wouldn't be good for you. If you just pay them a flat advisory fee, then they can give you unbiased advice. Should people invest in the Toronto housing market? Ash, it depends on a lot of factors, I think. Overall, yes. Long term, I feel good about Toronto. Does it cash flow? It depends. Thoughts on separating hydro and a triplex? About 7,000 to 8,000 at the most to add 2 meters. Is it 3-bed, 2-bed, 1-bed? No, I don't think it makes sense to do that, period. I don't like to separate my gas or my electrical because it adds extra expenses to the landlord and it doesn't add any extra resale value. I don't care. On a duplex that shares 1 meter, I just have the tenants split their utilities like based on square footage. I'm like, hey, you're responsible for 60% of the hydro bill, you're responsible for 40%. I put it in the lease. I say, hey, if the hydro exceeds this amount, I'm gonna charge you. And I put it in the lease. So there are ways to handle it without the separate meters. Even still, a lot of tenants like the all-inclusive, and you can put all-inclusive in the lease up to you know, $200 a month or something. You can do that. Those are like viable ways. So the whole separate meter thing, I think they charge you $50 a month per connection, and so it's just a waste of a couple $100 a month for connection fees to have multiple meters set up. And they charge that every month. Same for gas, same for hydro. These connection fees are ridiculous. Shared coin laundry, would you add a meter? I wouldn't add a meter. No, I wouldn't. I would just throw it on one of the tenants. I would just keep it on one of the tenants' units and say, look, you get a little discount on your rent for this amount if you're paying the hydro bill. Any tips on bookkeeping? About to close my first property. I have a Google Sheets that I use for joint venture partnerships, and we have a place where we write in like all our expenses as they come up. And same with the rents every month. We just write in the rent this person paid. We have the tenants for that. Each tab is a property, and in that tab we have, you know, across the top. I could probably sell that spreadsheet. Geez, people will buy that for like $10. That spreadsheet that I built. I have a property analysis spreadsheet I used to give away for free, and people love it. Someone told me I should sell it for $100. I feel like it's that good. It's the one that I use to analyze deals. I thought about putting that together in like a little ebook and selling it for like $10. How to invest in real estate. Do like a 20-page little ebook, and then include those Excel tools with it as a package. If there's enough demand for that after the video, someone drop in the comments. Maybe I'll do something. If enough people were interested, I'd probably put together a package. But yeah, the key is just keeping up with your expenses and trying to track them. Another thing too is set up a bank account for each property, and then only run the rents through that bank account. Set up a new email for each property, have it on auto deposit, and then the rents get automatically deposited with that one email to that one property account. All the income goes out of there, all the expenses come out of there. And that way, at the end of the year, you just print your bank statement, done. For that property, it's there all 12 months of all income and outgoing. And you have everything on automated payment anyway, so the utility bills all come out, the mortgage comes out, the property taxes all come out, all automated. You gotta pay a contractor for a repair, send them a transfer from that bank account. And places like Bank of Montreal, they allow you to have 20 bank accounts under the lead account for free. By the way, guys, if you're interested, what I need you to do is to, after this video is done, go comment on it and just tell me you're interested, or go on my Instagram account at Mike Rosehart and send me a DM. Or send me an email. My email's, what is it? I think my email's in the description here somewhere. Message me, I'll give you my email. Oh, there's a lot of comments. I can do this. I can do this. I can't do this. There's too many comments here. Jeez. I appreciate all these comments. There's so many. I like to talk, and I guess you guys like to write questions in because I can't keep up. 2.39% RBC. That's amazing. Port City Trading Desk. Good to see you on your. Andrew says, absolute clutch. Appreciate that. Gail says, how are you and the family doing? Hope all is well. Gail, I'm doing well. The family is doing well. Thank you for asking. We're all doing fantastically well, and all the mentees are doing very, very well. So I'm counting my blessings. You can't count like this. Real estate has costs too. Yes, real estate does have costs. That's the net I was talking about in that situation example, was the net profit would be that. Could you scoop up commercial on the cheap and convert to residential? Anthony, I don't want to give away some of my secrets, but I am eyeing up that as one of my 6 real estate strategies right now, to be honest with you. Yes, yes, that's true. You could do that depending on the zoning. What would you do if you had to start again? Oh, I was supposed to do the what would you do if you start again? Geez, I don't know if I have time. I wonder if I could do a succinct, really quick version of that. What would I do if I started again? If I started at 0 right now, coolly, I don't have any opportunities for the mentorship program right now. I might in the future. If someone moves out, then there'd be a room open if you want to live and enjoy and live in the thing. It's all full-time, so I have people live with me in my basement apartment. So they live, I guess not with me, they have their own unit, but it's totally self-contained. But yeah, that's an option. Reach out to me at, geez, what email do I use? At Rosehart, or rosehartproperties@gmail.com, I think is the one that I use for that. So yeah, send me a resume or message me. Okay, so if I started over again, what would I do? So if I had no money and I start absolutely from scratch again, first thing we would do is we'd go rent the biggest house we could find. The biggest house we could find. And I found one. I was on the Kijiji looking, and I would look for like every listing available. I'd be calling like private landlords, not through realtors. I'd be trying to find someone who's desperate to rent their place out and tell them I'm the best tenant. Like I would put together the best application, show them that I'm like solid, etc. and so forth. I know how to pitch a landlord because I've been one for a long time, so experience plays in there. But you could look at what all the things the landlord would be looking for, like good credit, etc. and so forth, super frugal, saving, show them your bank accounts, all that kind of stuff. So rent this house, and in London you can rent if you look for a really good deal, and this is in GTA too, I've seen people do this, rent these like 3,000 square foot, 6-bedroom houses for like $2,500 a month. And this actually happens in GTA too. I know people who rent massive houses for super cheap, just in GTA, like right within an hour of the core. You got to find deals though. You got to look for them. People who just want a simple tenant, they don't want to rent it out. But often these places have basements, not basement apartments. But you could easily, if it has a bathroom down there, a couple bedrooms, rent those out. And so my family, we would take the upstairs and we'd rent out the other places. We get some roommates. I screen them really, really well. We're looking for like accountants or like working professionals who wanted to work with us, right? So I got my living costs way down. And if I could have 3 rooms that we lived in and 3 rooms that I rented out, so a 6-bedroom house basically is what I'd be looking for. Then I would be bringing in $600 per room. That's $1,800 a month. My rent is $2,500 in total, let's say. So I have $700 in cost to live. First thing I do is go get a full-time job. That's number one. I'd be hustling, networking to get a full-time job somewhere, probably go back to my old job making 60 grand a year, but maybe I can't even get that. It's the worst case scenario. I get like a $50,000 a year job or $45,000 a year job. That's just there so I can get financing, so I can have a good narrative to the landlord. Temporarily, you need a job. That's important to look good, right? Then I would start looking for wholesale deals. I'd be hitting up everyone on Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, trying to find private off-market deals. I'd be going to every networking event and saying, hey, would you be interested in selling your property? I know a cash buyer. I know someone who's got a lot of money. And I'd be creative in how I get into the first deal. As soon as I have a deal under contract, I bring it to someone who has money at a networking event and say, hey, I'll do all the work. I will manage the property. I'll renovate the property. I will work for free. I'll renovate this property for free. I'll work at $30 an hour. I'll charge you $0. That's the value of my time I'm bringing to this deal. And I would bring that to the deal and I get the first deal done. And that's how you start snowballing, right? And once you get 1 or 2 under your belt, then you can get enough money saved up to, well, as soon as you have the full day job, you go into all the banks, you go to $10,000 or $20,000 unsecured line of credit. That's the first thing you do at all the banks. You apply to all of them at once, all 8 banks at once. Then you have $20,000 at the 5 big banks, plus 3 credit unions, plus like HSBC National Bank, as well as like there's a few other First National, other places you can go get lines of credits. Bunch of unsecured lines of credits, you open them all up at once. And then so it doesn't show on your credit report until after. So now you have $100,000 unsecured access line of credit. That's to do JVs with. Now you can go in on a $200,000 property, $40,000 down payment. You bring a partner in, you each put 20 grand, boom. You get them to help you qualify because you're JVing 50-50. They have the good job. But on $50K a year, if you have good rental income, you're buying a duplex with good rental income. I'm trying to talk fast because we're running out of time. With $50,000 a year job, you can easily buy a $250,000 a year house. No problem. So I'd buy a house probably and then rent it out, fix it up, rent it out, and then refinance it. Because I'm buying burrs. That's what I tend to buy is properties that I buy for $200 that are worth $325 when they're done. I have to renovate them, so I have to spend the time after I get off work at 5 o'clock. I go work there till midnight every night, working with contractors and trades and working there, sub-trades, physically getting all the work done there. Then I bring it back to the bank, I refinance it. I have these nice big fat leases that I bring back to the bank. My debt service ratios are better now than they were when I bought the property because the rental income is like double or triple the mortgage payment because I'm buying property again that is focused on cash flow. And if I'm in a city that doesn't cash flow, you know what I'm gonna do to retire early? I'm gonna move to a city that has cash flow. That's more important to me. Retiring early is more important than living in Toronto or Vancouver to me. And so I have to make changes to get there, but you could probably do it in Toronto too. I know people that buy student rentals there that have like 10 or 12 bedrooms and they cash flow in Toronto. So you can do it. There are ways to get it done. But anyway, so we go to this small town, we get the first, second, third, fourth deal done. I take my unsecured lines of credits, I buy a property, right? With a JV partner. That's the important part because right off the beginning, until I get my first, like $40,000 saved, which probably is gonna take me 1 real estate deal or I guess 1 year of me working. Like I would save 100% of my salary. We'd live on half of my wife's salary. We both have to work, right? Obviously. But yeah, then we'd have enough for our first property and it snowballs from there. So the first or second property takes a year. Then you can get like 5 or 6 in your second year. Your third year is when you can really start blowing up and getting 6, 7, 8 properties because the way it works is it takes a lot of time to get the first and second one done, but you can go a lot faster as you start rolling the snowball down the hill. So people often do 1 year in real estate investing and they get 1 property and they give up. Or they get 2 in and they give up, or they realize how much work it is and they give up. I've been through it all, right? So I wouldn't give up, but that's in a nutshell how I would do it. The video I did before, I spent like 20 minutes going through it and I did a much better job explaining exactly how I would do it. But yeah, wholesale fees are a great way to do it. I like, instead of wholesaling the property, to bring the property to an investor who wants to partner. And I just offer the most valuable thing that can be offered, which is you'll do all the work and you'll do it well. And I would go to them and say, hey, look, I've done 70 properties. I know what I'm doing. I've lost everything, but I'm starting again. And I will work a million times harder than anyone else is going to work in this JV partnership. Here's what I'm going to have a business plan laid out. I have financials laid out. I go in there super professionally, right? So that's the biggest thing is finding people who want to we're willing to back you for the mortgage, but you can do it yourself. Like I did my first 11 deals. I made $55,000 a year salary. My wife made 37, something like that. Um, and we bought like 10, 11 properties with no partners, just ourselves. So I was doing that in 2015, 2016, 2014, 2013, 2017 before I quit my job. And then I started partnering after. I hadn't done any joint venture partnerships until then. That's a mistake, by the way. I should have been joint venture partnering earlier on. It is the most important to joint venture partner early on. Later on, you don't need a JV partnership. Like right now, I can buy properties without JV partners. I only do it now because, well, one, I enjoy doing it with the mentees. It's kind of fun. And that's pretty much the only reason I joint venture partner. And two, I guess, if you have a lot of capital, people who are like putting myself in the position of someone who's wealthy and has the money to buy the property and to finance it and stuff. What I look for, it's a JV partner, so a joint venture partner, someone you're going to buy a property with or buy a business with, and you split the duties and responsibilities. Typically, if I was the rich person, I'd be the money partner. That's what I bring to the table. The person who brings the deal and brings the management, the work to the table, they bring something else to the table. And together you make a 50-50 JV. Typically the person bringing all the work, right? Like having to physically renovate it all, depending on what the project needs. But if it needs a lot of renovation, it needs a lot of management, it's like a student rental with a lot of different tenants, then that's a lot of effort brought by the person who's managing it all. And that person is bringing their energy capital to the deal, right? Their experience, the actual physical deal probably. If you control the deal, you control everything. That's the most important piece. Whoever owns the contract of the deal has all the power. The investor can't find the good deal. So if you have the good deal, you have all the power. You dangle that carrot, say, hey, I have a property here, it's $40,000 under market value. The investors will like hungry fish will try to get at it, right? And they'd be happy to give you the capital. If you have a bad deal, you won't be able to raise the money. That's just the facts. Bad deals don't raise good money. A lot of people say, Mike, I can't find a money partner. And that's because you have a bad deal in most cases, or you're not presenting the deal properly. That's pretty much it. But you have to be very careful where you pitch your deals. Someone just said, what do you do? How do you pitch your deals? Be careful, because if you solicit on social media for JV partners that are non-accredited, you are considered to be raising capital. And on a larger scale, you'll get fined. The securities, they don't like to see people raising. You can't raise capital without a proper license and without a proper memorandum, which costs a couple $100,000. So most people raise capital for JV partners illegally. And if they stay small, they don't get hurt. But if you get big and do a lot of deals and you're not targeting accredited investors, you're gonna get in big trouble. So just be careful what you can do legally in Canada. You actually legally can't go on Facebook, for instance, publicly and say, hey, I'm looking for money for a deal. You can't do that. You could be looking for a business partner, but you can't pitch a deal. And people do it all the time on Facebook, do it all the time on Instagram. To be very careful in the wording that you use. I've always been very careful about how I worded things to stay on side. Okay, there's too many questions. I can't get through all of them, but that was a really good one I wanted to answer. It's 3 minutes on each question. I like to spend time on the questions that I like the most, and give the time that the question needs. Might have missed this video and your story. You're growing real estate portfolio. Is there an ability to chat offline sometime if you're interested, Mike? Yeah, like to be honest, I get a lot of inquiries. I probably get like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 a week of people who want to do coaching calls with me. And I love to do it, but my time is super, super scarce, and I'm super frugal with my time for a number of reasons. So occasionally I will do a coaching call, and pretty much everyone's charging like $200 a coaching call. I do it for like 125. So if you want to get on a call and do a coaching call, I guess I'll do 1 or 2. Most of the time I just say no, to be honest, or I just ghost. I know it's rude. I like the comment. I read every comment people send me. I spend like hours a week reading comments. Why is Dave Ramsey so debt averse? Because he went bankrupt in the 80s, taking risk on he bought high risk real estate and lost almost everything. If you're buying property that services the debt 2 to 3 times over, so you're not buying flips, you're not buying appreciation plays, you're buying cash flowing real estate, debt is good. The problem is most debt is bad. Car debt's bad, student debt's bad, credit card debt's bad, unsecured debt's bad, debt to buy appreciating real estate or buy flips, or debt to buy not anything that doesn't cash flow, right? Cars, whatever, all that debt is bad. And so it's easier for Dave to say all debt is bad than to say some debt is good and will build you wealth, but a lot of debt is bad. That's the truth. That's the God's honest truth. If you're buying really good cash flowing assets that self-service the debt, you can't get enough debt. That's a beautiful thing. If the debt makes it so that you can't service, then it's not good. What's a good cap rate? A good cap rate, in my opinion, is 10. 5 is like LA or some like place like that, or just a terrible deal potentially. I wouldn't touch real estate in cash. I have no interest in buying any property in cash. Period. You don't want to own real estate in cash. That guarantees you like a 6 or 7% return. If you're buying 6 or 7 cap rate, or if you're buying 8 cap rate, you get an 8% return. That's a terrible return. Owning real estate in cash without leverage which means debt, is a bad proposition. Real estate is only attractive because you can put $1 in and buy $5 of real estate. That's why. You can buy 10 actually in GTA. I know a guy who bought a property near downtown Toronto. There was a 13-bedroom property. He converted it to 13 bedrooms. He's getting like $800 a bedroom. And he actually has a really good cash flow position in downtown Toronto. But if you buy a single family house, yeah, you're never going to cash flow in Vancouver or Toronto. You'll be negative cash flow. And so don't buy those. If you buy a condo in downtown Toronto or Vancouver, it's not going to cash flow. So don't buy those unless you're a speculative investor, in which case like it's up to the gods, up to economic factors out of your control, whether you're going to make a good return or not. I like to be in control. I like to know that if I work and hustle and rent my unit out, I will make a return regardless of what the market does. That's why I invest for cash flow. DR, so Dave Ramsey used very short-term callable loans. There you go. That was part of his problem, Chris. You're right. I don't even want to get into Dave Ramsey. I think a lot of what he says is stupid. He gives a lot of bad advice. There's some good advice he gives, but he gives a lot of bad advice too. A lot of watered down, weak financial sauce. But if you want to use that sauce in your spaghetti, go ahead. How do you create time to do? How do I do it? Work harder. If you work 9 to 7, then that means you still have from 7 to 2 a.m. every night. And what about weekends? What do you do on the weekend? You can carve out time, or you find a job, you change to a job that gives you a long lunch, or you change to a job that like you really do like 6 hours of work every day. So change the job. If you want to invest in something on the side, find the time. If you really can't find the time, like you're an investment banker that works like 8 a.m. to like 9 p.m. every day, then that's all you're going to be able to do, unless you change jobs. So great points, great questions. We're like 80 minutes in. I'm super late. I got to do my daughter's bedtime. I had to do that a while ago, and I get sucked into all these questions. Here's what I will promise. If you're still watching this video and I didn't get to your question, copy your question now, save it, and I'll end this video. You post it in the comment after the video, and I will respond. I will type a response to everyone's question who posts it. So if I missed your question, throw it down there, or just save it for next week. Up to you. Either way, I appreciated you joining me today. We had over 100 people tune in. I'm so thankful every week that we have so many people tune into the show. And if you have a friend that could benefit from the show, they're all up for pre-record. So just watch the show again. If I talk too fast, watch it on 0.5 times speed. If you're still watching this now in the replay and it's like several days later, drop in the comments and say hi. It's always good to see you guys. And I appreciate the thumbs up and the likes. Yeah, the secret to unlocking a wealthier you guys. What is it? 3 levers. I talk about it every single time for the last 3 years. I've been saying this. I was the first to say this. There are 3 levers to unlock your financial future. You've got to spend less, earn more, and maximize returns on the difference. So it's what you spend, it's what you earn, and it's the return on your investment in that order of importance. Stay safe, everyone. Enjoy the time with your family in this quarantine, and take advantage of this opportunity. See you guys all next week and in the comments and on Instagram at Mike Rosehart.